This will sound very strange, but a famous video game named Dirty Bomb that was released in 2013 is a prophetic sign from the Christian God of the Bible that is predicting that a dirty bomb will explode in Manhattan, New York City on September 25th, 2023. The date that this video was posted proves that this prediction is being made ahead of time, as does this time-stamped email and forensic notes PDF document. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. Alright, there is actually a video game named Dirty Bomb. I guess I came across this with just a simple search. Wasn't searching anything, I forget what I was searching for, but I was searching for something that wasn't this. Anyway, there is a video game. It's a famous one from what I understand. There's pages about it, for example. I think there's a Wikipedia page about it. I could be wrong about that, but there's like a... Anyway, it turns out that the release of this video game was October 1st, 2013. And this is exactly 9 years and 11 months, which is making this a prophetic connection for sure. Because it obviously hints at 9/11, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a predicted dirty bomb explosion in Manhattan, and it'll be the follow-up judgment that was warned of on 9/11 in Manhattan. Also, 9 years and 11 months is 119 months, which is a second witness confirmation to this. And this is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works, which is only being explained on this channel. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter as the Bible says is required, and that's what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination, and different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs. And so one simple way he does confirm signs too is through pairing certain numbers together, such as 9 and 11. Now, if we add 9 years and 11 months exactly, we get this extremely prophetic and relevant sign here. This is relevant because this sign is for the purpose, or one of the main purposes, to point to the dirty bomb evacuation, because Jimmy Buffett died on this day, September 1st, 2023, and he is known for his empire of business and his music, which is themed, it's a brand, his brand of island escapism. Okay, so Jimmy Buffett is known for quote-unquote island escapism, and that's what we are talking about. We are talking about the escape or evacuation from Manhattan Island. Okay, Jimmy Buffett died on an island too. He died on Long Island. So anyway, this is explained in the Jimmy Buffett video. This is an amazing video. I won't explain any much more. Make sure you watch the other video. But one thing is that he is known for his song Come Monday, which is 3 minutes long. And this will be on Monday, the predicted explosion in Manhattan. But also he's known for his number one hit. The song Come Monday made it to number 3 on the adult contemporary and the number 30 on the Hot 100 Billboard. And he, at the time of his death, was about to release his 30th album. So that was part of the news story about how when he died, he was just about to release his 30th album, which is another hint at the number 3. That's because God was using this to hint at 3 days, which was also a Monday. This was the day of the Burning Man Exodus evacuation from the desert sign, which is explained in the amazing Burning Man video. Make sure you watch that. That was also about an evacuation or an exodus. They call it the Exodus event. It's the name of the time when the 70,000 burners leave en masse at the end of the festival. But this year it was a disaster. There was a muddy disaster, and they were prevented from leaving. But anyway, this was the 37th year, which hinted at 3 sets of 7, which is God, the 37th year of Burning Man, I should say. And anyway, that hinted at 3 sets of 7, as well as other things, which is explained in the video, which also hinted at 3 sets of 7. And God uses 3 sets of 7 because in the book of Joshua, the Israelites marched around the walls of security of Jericho before they collapsed in God's judgment, but they enacted a symbolic 3 sets of 7. They marched around once per day for 7 days, and then on the 7th day, they marched around 7 times while 7 trumpets were blown. A symbolic 3 sets of 7. And that's why it was the 37th Burning Man year, 3 sets of 7 days before this predicted evacuation and exodus from Manhattan Island. All right, now, the thing is too, this was the closed beta. This is the open beta release date of this same video game. This is the terminology that they use in the gaming industry. This was June 2nd, 2015, and this date also connects to the date it is predicted that a dirty bomb will explode in Manhattan. Connects profoundly. And for example, it is 99 months and 23 days. Now, God pairs 9 and 23 together frequently in his signs as a second witness, as I was saying. 23 and God gives us second witnesses that are required, but he also, a simple way in doing so would be to provide, or rather pair numbers together, certain numbers, such as 9 and 23. 9 and 23 are paired together because 23 is the 9th prime number, and the number 9 is the most important number in God's signs, which symbolizes God's judgment. And there are many other things. I'm just going to play a clip here that'll explain more the amazing reasons why God pairs 9 and 23 together. God uses the number 23 to reveal the identity of the Antichrist, the basketball president who wore jersey number 23 when he played basketball in high school. In the Old Testament in the Bible, it is described how 2 goats were used on the Day of Atonement in the ritual on the Temple Mount. In Bible prophecy, there are 2 antichrists, and in Bible prophecy, it is said that the Antichrist will rule the Temple Mount during the end times period, and the Antichrist will be vanquished from the Temple Mount at the return of Lord Jesus Christ on the Day of Atonement in 2024. Goat is Antichrist symbolism. Goat stands for greatest of all time. And this is why the 2 goats of basketball wore jersey number 23, Michael Jordan and LeBron James. The GOAT of basketball, Michael Jordan, played for Chicago, and the GOAT Antichrist, the basketball president, is from Chicago. LeBron James is famous for being from Cleveland and having played for Cleveland and having won the NBA Finals championship for Cleveland, breaking the supposed Cleveland sports curse, which is Antichrist King symbolism, which is why LeBron James goes by the nickname King James. And this was used to point to the president Grover Cleveland, who was the only president to serve non-consecutive terms, skipping the 23rd presidency, just like the Antichrist will serve non-consecutive terms, having skipped the 45th presidency. In God's true big picture of end times signs, patterns, and connections, the number 9 is the most important number, as from the Bible it symbolizes God's judgment, and the number 23 is the 9th prime number, and the number 45 is the 9th triangular number, which in a triangle of numbers, the last number in the 9th row is 45. This is why Michael Jordan, in the exact middle of his career, after having won 3 NBA titles and before winning his other 3 NBA titles, retired briefly, and when he returned, wore jersey number 45 for coincidentally 23 games. And it is why Michael Jordan, in his last game as a Chicago Bull, another city God uses to point to the Antichrist, who is also from Chicago, scored 45 points against the team from the 45th state. Like Michael Jordan, LeBron James also played in Cleveland, then famously left Cleveland in much controversy, and then returned again to play a second time in Cleveland in order to win the championship for Cleveland and break the Cleveland sports curse, which symbolizes the Antichrist curse of Barack Obama when he will return to the White House for his second presidency. In other words, the hiatus in the middle of Michael Jordan's career in Chicago and the hiatus in the middle of LeBron James's career in Cleveland hint at the hiatus of Barack Obama skipping the 45th presidency and returning to the White House for a second presidency. It will be his third term, which is why Michael Jordan won 3 championships and then briefly retired before returning a second time to win 3 more championships. It is predicted that Barack Obama will become the 48th president on November 19th or November 21st, 2023. A few days after, it is predicted that Michelle Obama will become the 47th president on November 13th. God pairs the numbers 9 and 23 together in order to confirm the signs and connections and to reveal the identity of the Antichrist, the basketball president that wore jersey number 23 when he played basketball in high school and became president in 2009, and will become the president again in 2023. From the Bible, the numbers 9 and 23 both symbolize judgment, and the number 23 is the 9th prime number. The only grandfather-grandson presidents were the 9th and 23rd presidents, William and Benjamin Harrison. The 9th president, William Harrison, died on the calendar date April 4th, 44, which hints at the 44th president. Harrison died exactly 1 month after his inauguration. The name Harrison hints at Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash due to a bird strike and lightning and turbulence in St. Louis on October 17, 2023. And the Antichrist Barack Obama will rise to power and become president again through her replacement, which is what is hinted at with the only president to serve non-consecutive terms, President Grover Cleveland, who skipped the presidency of Benjamin Harrison. The 23rd president, which is why LeBron James, who played for Cleveland, wore jersey number 23. Michelle Obama will first replace Kamala Harris, and then Barack will replace Michelle. Michelle is the feminine version of Michael, which is the reason for the name Michael in the name Michael Jordan. In the Bible, the Hebrews crossed the Jordan River into the Promised Land. Barack Obama's famous autobiography is named A Promised Land. Obama the Antichrist will promise the world a new world order utopia. A goat is Antichrist symbolism. The greatest of all time, the GOAT of basketball, Michael Jordan, wore jersey number 23 and jersey number 9 when he played for the U.S. Olympic Dream Team, a team that beat their opponents by an average of 44 points per game, which hints at the 44th president, GOAT Antichrist, that wore jersey number 23 and became president in 2009. If you have not already watched the Michael Jordan prophecy video on this channel, the Michael Jordan prophecy video is an essential video for foundational understanding of how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works. All right. Now, this 99 months and 23 days is also confirmed through these connections. So I'll just go here. 1,888 hints at 188. And God uses the number 188 frequently in his signs because the 188th word in Strong's Hebrew Old Testament Concordance is the word for woe! Exclamation mark, used in context of extreme judgment from God. It is a 9/11 number, though. For example, 9/11 was exactly 188 years after the only other time that a foreign enemy attacked the nation's capital. Again, on 9/11, there was the plane that crashed into the Pentagon at the nation's capital. On 9/11 in 1813, the British landed at Washington's Mount Vernon estate and then proceeded to burn down the White House and the Capitol building before being chased out of Washington, D.C. on the same day by a hurricane that was designed by God. But also on 9/11, the second plane had the second witness to the 9/11 event, because prior to the second plane, after the first plane, the world watched and was confused as to whether it was an accident that a plane flew in, or whether it was even a bomb, or whether it was an act of terrorism. But the second plane was the second witness. The second plane had a crew of 9 people, and flew into the tower 17 minutes later. 17 divided by 9 equals 1.888 into infinity. So it is a 9/11 number. And that's why we have this number of days to this sign right here. This was August 2nd, 2020, the day of the first splashdown of SpaceX's Dragon crew. Now, this is really this is prophetic of the Antichrist, and well, so there's lots to this, but I don't want to get off onto too much of a tangent. There's the Falcon 9 rocket, and the first when this crew was attempted to launch, they had to scrub the initial launch time, postpone it a day due to and it was 17 minutes before the scheduled launch that they canceled it, which hinted at the 17 minutes, by the way, in between the two towers, which confirms this connection right here. But so it was the Falcon 9 rocket. The launch was scrubbed 17 minutes before its launch, which was extremely prophetic because it hinted at the 17 minutes in between the two planes that struck the two towers on 9/11. And furthermore, the 17 years in between the two space shuttle disasters, which was furthermore the last time that, come to think of it, that the shuttle was launched. So this is the last time. So this launch was the previous time that Americans had gone into space without the help of the Russians was the space shuttle disaster of Columbia, exactly 17 years after the Challenger disaster. And I say exactly because they were within like 2 days of the calendar year, and they are commemorated on the same day every year because of that. But they are 17 years apart, and that's because the 17 minutes apart on 9/11, and that's because God was pointing to Apollo 17, which was the last time that an American stepped foot on the moon. The departure from the moon is symbolic of the America's departure from Christ, because the moon symbolizes Christ. It's a giant rock. And the sun's light that symbolizes God the Father is too bright for us to gaze at, but we can gaze at the sun's light reflected off of the moon, for example. And so, anyway, we have the 9 and 17 that confirms this connection. I didn't even realize that because of the Falcon 9 rocket and the 17 minutes. But anyway, this is the first splashdown. And this is exactly 9 months before this next Dragon crew splashdown. Now, when asked by his disciples for the signs to look for of his return, Jesus replied with a metaphor of birth pains. And according to the medical profession, the average human gestation period is 9 months. And so this is birth pains end time symbolism. Now, this date here was the symbolic beginning of the final 1,260 days before the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ on the day of the Lord, on the Day of Atonement, on October 12th, 2024. And the prediction being made in this video will prove this. And this is the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction, is to prove this. Make no mistake. To not appreciate that is to miss the point of this prediction that is from God. In other words, we are well inside the final 1,260 days. And I know how that confuses a lot of people. But the times and a half time is not a riddle that reveals 1,260 days. It's the other way around. 1,260 days is symbolic of times and a half time. And times and a half time is furthermore symbolic of tribulation. That's it. Okay? We are already, and this proves it. This symbolic 1,260 days began with this prophetic sign, which this date was known since 2017 to be the beginning of the final 1,260 days. And this was the day that, because of bad weather that delayed the return of the Dragon crew splashed down for the first time at night since Apollo 8. God pointed to Apollo 8 because that is the first mission to the moon. They orbited the moon and also read the first verses of Genesis to 1/4 of the planet. But the moon symbolizes Christ. That was the first mission to the moon, Apollo 8. Okay, and that's why the first nighttime splashdown since then. But it was all about the splashdown, and because of the delay, it was expedited, the return to Earth, and it was 6.5 hours, which is 390 minutes. And the 390th word in Strong's Greek New Testament Concordance is the word return. The dragon crew returned to Earth 390 minutes. It took 390 minutes for them to return. Okay? Now, the Apostle James used this word when he quoted Amos 9:11 in the Old Testament, when it says that the Lord will return to rebuild his temple. We're talking about the day of the Lord here. And that's why it's 390 minutes, which connects exactly to the day of the Lord. This dragon crew had broken the record, or tied the record of 84 days in space, and then broke it. But they tied the record of 84 days in space on the extremely prophetic day that the GOAT of football won his 7th Super Bowl in 10 Super Bowl appearances. The Day of Atonement, which is the day of the Lord, is in the Bible. The Jews in ancient Israel would conduct a sacrifice involving a goat. And the Day of Atonement is the 10th day of the 7th month. And that's why the GOAT of football won 7 Super Bowls in 10 Super Bowls appearances. But it was confirmed because of the record. God uses records. He won his record 7th Super Bowl on the same day that the dragon crew, which is Antichrist symbolism, because the GOAT Antichrist was born on the date 8/4, August 4th, Barack Obama. Furthermore, the date 8/4 is a reflection of 4/8, which he will be the 48th president. And furthermore, the date 8/4 is written as 4/8 in the rest of the world, outside of America. And dragon, well, in Revelation chapter 12, which describes the 1,260-day period for the dragon that is thrown down from heaven to earth, this dragon crew fell or returned from the second heaven, outer space, to earth. And the dragon is thrown down with his minions, his angels, and this is what dragon crew hints at. And the second coming will be in 2024, and that's what's hinted at with 240 exactly percent of a year, which is this connection right here. It hints at 42 as well, which is the number of the period of the Antichrist, 42 months, which is for the dragon, which is 1,260 days. So all this, confirmation here, right? Anyway, the reason why God has given me a voice is to prove what I just said. This was the symbolic beginning of the 1,260 days. Case closed. After watching this video, there should be no more talk or speculation of any kind of 70th 7, Daniel chapter, 70 weeks prophecy beginning and the 2 witnesses at this point in the timeline. No. We're already well inside the 1,260 days, my friends. It's time to move on. And if not, you really didn't get the whole point of this prediction that is from God. So. All right, now one last connection here that needs to be explained in this diagram is this 71 months, which connects the dragon crew, which in turn connects to the day of the Lord and the predicted judgment here. The reason is because it took me a while to figure this out, but I've been studying God's true big picture of signs, which is only being explained on this channel, for more than full-time hours, from morning until night for 6 years. And it took me a long time to figure out why God was, and I'm a little slow. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing when it comes to, God's science, but it took me a while to figure out that God was first of all, that God was doing this, that he was using combinations of 7s and 1s, but also to figure out why. And there's a few reasons why, but one of the main ones is that it hints at Genesis 7:11. And that's the verse in the Bible in which the flood judgment began. Genesis 7:11. So that's why it connects to the judgment here, the dirty bomb connection here. 71 months from this dirty bomb, right? Okay. Now, which in turn connects to the judgment in Manhattan, the dropping of the walls of security that God promised through the 9/11 events, the warning of that promise. So, now Genesis 7:11, well, that requires 3 numbers, but that can't always be the case. God can't always give us 3 numbers, and so combinations of 1 and 7 in other words, 17 and 71, are also a hint at Genesis 7:11. And I know this because of God's big picture of signs, which is an interconnected web, and the full intended meaning of God's prophetic signs cannot be properly understood without their connections to other signs, which lends insight and knowledge to the prophetic signs. And this process of studying God's connections has led to the understanding that, in fact, 71 is a hint at Genesis 7:11. That's why the exact 71 months here. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Please leave a like and upvote the video. And once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more. Don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the BitChute.com or the Odyssey.com channel. And do it now in case you aren't able to later.